Kasha Knishes New York Deli style. You're not going to have to get a plane ticket to have these because you're going to be able to make them in your own kitchen. A light, beautiful knish dough filled with roasted buckwheat and onions, just amazingly savory and so good. You're going to want to learn how to make these. Sally that girl in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally That Girl in the Kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make delicious Kasha Knishes. Yes, Kasha Knishes. Knishes filled with golden kasha and onions. Super flavorful, super tasty. And I'm going to teach you how to make these the way that, well, I taught myself really. I came up with a recipe of how to put together the kasha so that it's really nice and flavorful and it's fluffy but has that right consistency to hold together in the knish dough. And I'm telling you, these guys are gonna be so tasty. So if you're a fan of the potato knish and haven't had a kasha knish, you really have to try this recipe out. Actually, my potato knish recipe is probably one of the most popular recipe videos that I have out. Everyone absolutely loves them. And so I have no doubt that you guys are gonna love the kasha version too. So I am super excited to teach you how to make these. So let's not wait another second. And let's get started. For the dough part of today's recipe, you will need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of sugar, half a cup of vegetable oil, half a cup of water, 1 teaspoon of white vinegar, and 1 large egg and 1 more egg separate for an egg wash. For the filling part of today's recipe, you will need 2 small peeled russet potatoes that we're going to boil in some salted water, 5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 3 small yellow onions, 1 cup of kasha, which is roasted buckwheat. I'm using the whole granulation, 2 cups of chicken broth, plus some more if needed. You can replace this chicken broth with water, of course, but I love the flavor you get when you use chicken broth. 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 stick, which is 8 tablespoons, of a Parve non-dairy margarine. Of course, if you're going with water and you want to make this dish dairy, then you can go ahead and use butter instead. Either one will be delicious. So I will mention that you will have leftover filling. This filling is probably enough to make 2 batches of the previous dough. So you can either double up on your dough, or of course you can just serve this delicious filling as a side because it is really that good and it will be fully cooked. So you can definitely just eat the leftovers as a side. You will also need a large bowl with a lid, or instead you can use plastic wrap. You'll need 2 medium bowls and a small bowl, a large spoon, a potato masher, a colander, a couple of wet measuring cups, some dry measuring cups, some measuring spoons, a rolling pin, parchment paper and wax paper, a pastry brush, a knife and a cutting board, a wooden spatula or spoon, a potato peeler, a couple of forks, a large serving fork, a spoon, and either a 3.5-inch diameter cookie cutter, or you can use a teacup or a coffee cup with a thin rim that has a 3.5-inch diameter. If you're going with that diameter, we're going to be making some small knishes. So we're going to be getting about 16 or 17 small knishes. But of course, if you prefer a larger knish, then just use a cookie cutter with a larger diameter. You can go with 4.5, 5 inches, as big as you want. And you'll also need a large baking tray and a cooling rack, some oven mitts, a small pot, a medium-sized skillet, and a medium-sized pot with a lid. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to work on is our dough. So we're adding 3 cups of all-purpose flour to a large bowl. And then on top of that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Then 2 teaspoons of sugar. And then we're going to grab our trusty fork. I like using my serving fork. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know I love using a serving fork to make many doughs. So this works beautifully. All I'm doing is incorporating the ingredients, make sure they're well distributed. So once we've done that, then I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'm going to grab a medium bowl, and then in it, I'm going to crack 1 large egg. And then I'm going to go ahead and beat that egg really well. Just want to make sure we get it really well beaten. And then once that egg has been beaten, then right into that same bowl, we're going to add our wet ingredients. So we're going to come in with 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Then we're going to add 1/2 cup of water. This is just room temperature water. Then 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. And then we're just going to give this a stir. I'm just using a spoon, giving it a little bit of a stir. It's not going to come together, of course, because we have the oil and the water, but we do want to mix it together, kind of incorporate the ingredients a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this bowl. We're going to bring over our bowl with our dry ingredients, and then we're going to go ahead and add those wet ingredients right on top of the dry ones. And then I'm going to go back to working with my trusty fork, and I'm just going to scrape down the sides of the bowl as I go. And then I'm just kind of stirring in a circular pattern, and I also move my bowl a bit as I go around and around. And all I'm doing is I'm making sure that that white flour gets touched by the wet ingredients. I don't want any white flour remaining in the bowl. So I'm just using the fork to scrape the sides as I go and just make sure to bring all that white flour in. And then I'm going to clean off my fork, and with obviously extremely clean hands, I'm going to come in and I'm going to work the dough with my hands. There's nothing like your hands when it comes to working dough. So what I'm doing is I'm just bringing the ingredients together, and I'm using the moisture in the dough to pick up the dry ingredients in the bowl. And you'll notice that I use the dough to wipe off the bottom and sides of the bowl, and it's just going to pick up all of the dry ingredients. Now at this point, your dough should feel almost like Play-Doh. If you notice your dough has not come together, maybe you went a little heavy-handed on your flour, then you can add 1 teaspoon more of water and of oil into the dough, and then continue to bring it together until it looks like it looks here. Don't be afraid, but just 1 teaspoon at a time to bring the dough together if you need it, because sometimes we do go a little heavy-handed on the flour, and you definitely don't want your dough to feel dry. So now my dough has come together, and I'm going to grab this dough and I'm going to place it on my impeccably clean counter. I'm going to knead it for 5 full minutes. Yes, this dough requires some kneading, and what I do is I just kind of switch off from one hand to the other, because I do recognize 5 minutes of kneading doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm telling you, it is an arm workout. So I actually usually turn on a timer for myself so that I know how long it's been, because 5 minutes when kneading dough can feel like a whole lot, but I'm telling you, it's worth it, because when you're done, you're gonna have the most beautiful, pliable, just amazing dough that's gonna be so beautiful. It's gonna be the perfect vessel for that savory kasha filling that we're going to be creating, and it's just perfect. Look at how beautiful and smooth it looks. It's perfect. 5 minutes of kneading is what it took. So I'm going to put it back in the bowl, and now I'm going to place my cover on. And like I said, if it doesn't have a cover, you can use plastic wrap. That's fine. I burp it, let out the air, and then I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator while I work on the filling. It's going to sit there while we make the filling. So now we're going to start with our 2 small russet potatoes, which we're going to wash real well. Then we're going to peel, and then we're going to chop them up into small pieces. Then we're going to grab our small pot. We're going to fill it with cool water, and then we're going to go ahead and add some salt. I don't measure this. I just kind of sprinkle some salt in, and then I'm going to bring over my peeled and chopped potatoes, and I'm going to add those in. This is just 2 small russet potatoes, and I'm going to stir it together, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove on to medium and allow this to cook. This should take about 20-25 minutes. And in the meantime, I bring over my 3 yellow onions. I peel them and I cut them into small pieces. And then I grab my medium-sized skillet, and in it I add my 5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil and my 3 small yellow onions that I just chopped up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook these onions, but these onions are not to be browned. We're just going to cook them on low heat for a total of about 15 minutes. That's all it takes on my stove. All I do is I coat them well in that extra virgin olive oil because it's really going to flavor those onions, and it's just going to be incredible in that filling. I'm so excited. So just stir them around a bit. So now I moved my potatoes to the back burner because I just gave myself a little room, and it's been about 20-25 minutes. My potatoes are fork tender, so I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a colander in my clean sink, and I'm just going to drain off the water from my potatoes. And then when the steam clears, I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake. And this is going to be part of our filling. But don't worry, it won't taste like potato. This is totally a kasha filling. And then I'm going to come over real quick and just move my onions around. So I said you want to cook these for about 15 minutes, but you definitely want to come in 2 or 3 times, just move them around. We're sweating these onions. We don't want them to brown. So now I grabbed another medium bowl, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over those 2 small russet potatoes that we boiled. Then I'm going to add 1 stick, 8 tablespoons of non-dairy margarine. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And then I'm going to grab my potato masher, and I'm just going to mash it all together. So what I'm creating now is flavor, of course, and a binder. The 2 small russet potatoes are really going to help keep our filling together. So the buckwheat is loose. So if we don't add something to bind it, to kind of keep it together, then when we cut into our knish, the pieces, the grains would just be falling out. So this serves as our binder. So now our onions are looking great. I'm pretty sure these guys are ready. They look good to go. It's been about 15 minutes. They're beautiful, they're golden, they're the perfect consistency. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove off. And then of course, I'm gonna grab these delicious onions, and you guessed it, I'm gonna add them right on top of the potato mixture. Yum, yum, yum. Make sure to get all of that yumminess in. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and stir that all together. Already it smells incredible. We haven't even added the kasha yet. And you might notice that I seasoned heavily. It's because I'm not gonna season the kasha. All I'm using is 2 cups of chicken broth in a medium pot, which I'm going to cover, and I'm going to turn my heat on to high, but only for a couple of minutes. I just want to bring this liquid to a boil, and as soon as the liquid starts boiling, Then I'll go ahead and add my 1 cup of kasha, my roasted buckwheat. It's in whole pieces, it's a whole granulation, and I'm just using a fork and just kind of stirring that together. And I'm not gonna add any more seasonings. I'm just gonna cover it. And now I'm gonna bring my heat down to low and allow it to cook. And it should take about 15-20 minutes. So you can come in about halfway through, take a peek at it, kind of move it around a bit. It should start to feel a bit fluffy, like it's really absorbing all that liquid. But if it appears too dry to you, then you could always add a little splash more of that chicken broth or water if you're using water. Just make sure that you cook this for about 15 to 20 minutes. And as I said, you want to make sure that it's nice and fluffy. So if it looks dry, see how it kind of drags as I move the fork? That's what you want. You want it nice and fluffy. You want it to absorb a lot of liquid. So you go ahead and turn this off because it's been about 20 minutes. This is ready to go. And I'm going to bring that over and I'm going to add it right on top of the potato, the onions, the margarine, the seasonings. My mouth is watering. It smells so good. And I'm telling you, this filling is spectacular. You can eat it alone. That's how good it is. It's super, super yummy. And then all I'm going to do is mix it all together. And you're going to see how quickly this transforms. You're honestly not even going to notice the potato. It is so smooth with the margarine and the onions that we added that it's just going to all come together and become one delicious, yummy kasha filling. There's nothing worse than ordering a Kasha Knish at a deli and having it taste like potato. If you wanted a potato knish, you'd order a potato knish. This is a Kasha Knish. Lots of kasha, lots of onions, the perfect consistency. The touch of russet potato is really just as a binder, and it is going to be kasha from end to end, and it's going to be super yummy. I can't wait. So now we've brought it all together, and I grabbed a spoon, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and change spoons and use the spoon to give it a little taste because this is fully cooked at this point. I just want to give it a taste, make sure, yes, perfect. That it doesn't need any more salt, that it's perfectly seasoned. It is absolutely perfect. So now I'm just going to set this aside and I'm going to bring out the bowl that I had in the refrigerator with my dough. I'm going to go ahead and uncover it. And now it's rested, it's chilled. And now I'm going to grab a large baking tray and I'm going to cover it with parchment paper because we are going to start forming our delicious Kasha Knishes. And so now would be a good time to preheat your oven to 375 degrees, making sure you have a rack placed in the center. And now what we're going to do is we're going to place a sheet of wax paper right onto our counter. I find that when I'm rolling out large pieces of dough, wax paper works beautifully. So I grab my knish dough and I'm going to place it right on the center and just flatten it out just a touch with my clean hands. And then I'm going to grab a second sheet of wax paper and I'm going to place that right on top. And then actually, let me reposition this so you get a better view. And I'm going to grab my rolling pin and then I'm going to press down as I roll because what I'm doing is flattening out this dough and I'm stretching it out. I want to roll this dough out, which is why I'm using large pieces of wax paper because I want to stretch it out all the way as far as I can go, all the way to the end of the wax paper and get it nice and thin. You want a beautifully thin dough for your knishes. So now I've rolled out my dough. I'm going to remove the top layer of wax paper and I have a 3.5-inch diameter cookie cutter. Or as I said, you can use a teacup, anything with a thin rim that's about 3.5 inches in diameter, or of course, as I said, you can go much bigger if you'd like. Whatever size you want is perfectly fine. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut out as many circles as I can. but I'm not going to be wasting this dough. No need to worry. I am going to remove the pieces around the circles, and I'm going to re-roll that dough because I'm going to cut more circles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a second piece of wax paper. I'm going to place my dough circles right on that. And then that way I can just leave them there while I continue to roll out my dough and remove these beautiful circles. The circles are going to get bigger once we work on them because we will be stretching those out. I'll be showing you soon. So those are the remnants. And so as I said, all I'm doing is I'm making a ball out of those remnants. I'm going to squish them down a bit with my hand. I put a second sheet of wax paper on top, and I'm just going to repeat the process, just continuing to cut out more circles of dough until I've used all of my dough. And in my case, I got 17 rounds of dough. 2 of them are just a touch smaller than the rest, but 17. So you can do about 16 or 17 of these. So now you're going to grab one piece of dough and using the hard part of your hand, laying it right on your clean work surface, you're just going to stretch that dough out a bit using your hand. And then you're going to add a nice heaping spoonful. I'm using a kitchen spoon. I did about 2 or 1.5 spoonfuls in the center. And then you're going to grab this beautiful dough and you're going to fold it right over that kasha filling. You see how I just kind of push the filling as I go and I bring that dough over the filling. This is going to be filled from end to end with kasha. So crazy good. Here we go. You see how it works so beautifully. This dough is amazing to work with. And you just kind of pull it over the kasha. And then you're just going to bring the ends of the dough together and just pinch them. That's all. It couldn't be any more simple. Just pinch them together. And some people like to bake these just like this, face up. They just kind of push these edges in and leave them facing up just like that. But I like mine facing down. So I just pinch this together. It doesn't matter if it sticks fully or not. It's totally fine. And then you just flip it over. And I love that beautiful flat surface. It's just gorgeous. So I'm going to add that onto my prepared baking sheet. And then I'm going to show you one more time. So once again, you just grab one of your circles. You use the hard part of your hand to just kind of stretch that dough out a bit. Then you're going to add a nice amount of kasha filling in the center, about a kitchen tablespoon and a half. I've zoomed in a little bit to help you see better. And then you're just going to grab your dough and just fold it right over that filling, just holding that filling in as you go. Then just kind of pinch that dough together in the center and then flip it over, and that's it. You have yourself a beautiful Kasha Knish, and then you just repeat the process until you run out of dough. See, I have about half of the filling left, so you definitely could double up on that dough if you want to make more knishes, or you can just serve it because it's absolutely delicious. No one will be angry to have to eat some of that because it's super, super yummy. And look at how gorgeous these guys look. Honestly, they are easier than you think, and they are well worth it. Super, super tasty. So now I cracked a large egg into a bowl, and I'm just beating it well. And then I'm going to use this egg for an egg wash. I'm grabbing my pastry brush, and then you just want to go right on top of your knishes, and you can go all the way around. You can get the sides of the knish because this is just going to be a way to make your knishes get super golden as they bake. It's really just as if you were painting a canvas. The result is so beautiful. It just gives it a gorgeous golden color, and it's going to be well worth it. So just go ahead and make sure you paint all of them real well with egg. And then look at how cute they look, and we haven't even baked them yet. So now they're pretty much ready to go. We are gonna pop these into the oven on a center rack We're gonna set a 30-minute timer to allow these to cook. And after 30 minutes, we will bring them out. And look at how beautiful they're looking. Absolutely spectacular, golden, that delicious thin dough just puffed up just a touch in the oven, and it's filled with that amazing savory kasha filling. Unreal. If you haven't tried a Kasha Knish, you are in for a treat. This is absolutely delicious, so yummy, so reminiscent of sitting at a New York deli. Just absolutely divine. This is something you're really going to want to try out. So now I'm going to just carefully bring them over to a cooling rack just to allow them to cool a bit before I indulge. My mouth is watering. I can't wait. Look at how beautiful and golden they look. That dough is perfect. So now we're going to just let them cool for a moment before we dig in. And look how beautiful they are. Everyone is going to flock over to the kitchen because the aroma is spectacular. And when they see these, they're going to be so impressed with you because really they're a work of art and they're so, so tasty. So now on to my favorite part. They've cooled down and I've served them on a serving platter, and I'm gonna grab myself one. You see how the bottom is just kind of tucked in? It's perfect, it stays together. The kasha does not peek out. It's just absolutely perfect, and it's just the perfect consistency. I'm making a little bit of room because I'm gonna have a little bit of spicy brown mustard, which is my favorite way to eat a knish. And I'm going to cut into this, and let me tell you, that dough, it's perfect. It's exactly what you would expect from a New York deli knish. So perfect. And wait till you see the inside. The filling of this Kasha Knish is the star. Look at that gorgeous filling of kasha. A little bit of spicy brown mustard, and here we go. Heavenly. I am transported to a New York deli. So delicious, and no plane ticket required. I didn't even have to leave my kitchen. Amazing. These are so good. The debate is going to be what is better, a kasha knish or a potato knish. Look at how absolutely divine, filled from end to end with that beautiful savory kasha filling with the onions and the chicken broth. I mean, what could be more flavorful? So, so crazy good. Spectacular. I always say my favorite part of filming these videos for you is when I get to eat. And I have no doubt that you will feel the same when you make these at home. They're so crazy good. So flavorful, so delicious, filled with kasha from end to end. They're just absolutely perfect. So how amazing do these Kasha Knishes look? I told you they were going to be super flavorful, packed with kasha, onions, just absolutely delicious. The perfect consistency for the inside of a knish. And of course, that dough is just absolute perfection. It comes together easily, it holds together beautifully, and it just gets golden and absolutely delicious. It's a tough competition. Which way should we go, potato or kasha? I don't know. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite, or of course, one of each. No one's judging you. That's probably what I do. They're absolutely spectacular. Whichever way you decide to go, they're just super yummy, and I really hope you enjoyed watching today's recipe video because I know they're delicious. Trust me. Nah, better yet, don't trust me. You're gonna have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, If you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like it, write a sweet comment, share it with your friends, share the love. That's why I do what I do, because I love when you guys write to me and you tell me how much you love my videos. So if you find a recipe video that you love, please go ahead and share the love, share it with your friends, post it on your Facebook wall, send it by WhatsApp, just share it with your friends because it really helps my page grow. And speaking of pages, if you're not following me on social media, you can find me as Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can find me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. So be sure to follow me there. And of course, if you're not subscribed here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and to touch that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put up an amazing recipe, which I do all of the time. And of course, you can also check out my Amazon store. You'll find that on the banner of my YouTube channel if you're watching on an iPad or on a computer. And you can also find it on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page. Right at the top, I have it pinned. So you can check out any of the tools you may see me use in my videos. I usually list them there. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Sally That Girl in the kitchen.